Hi there, welcome again. I know it's very difficult to bear with the summary of the chapters, but come on, we have to study that for the exams. And my endeavor is to finish it at least up to chapter number 18, because this is going to be there in the exams which are going to be held next month. So over to chapter number 3, The Invisible Man, the 1001 bottles. Now this is the 29th day of February, 29th February, and the snow becomes, now snow has beginning to thaw, as we read in chapter number 1 and 2 about the heavy snowfall in Iping village. And this is a special day for the man because his luggage arrives. He's waiting for his luggage from the previous two chapters, and the luggage contains a box of books, big fat books, and there are bottles, dozens and dozens of bottles, crates, and there are other things like also sort of solutions, which definitely anyone can, after looking at all those things, can understand that these are the things which relate to the laboratory. And definitely the man is happy that he would be able to set up his laboratory now, and he would be starting with his experiment. The experiment now, which is related to visibility, as he's already invisible. Mr. Firenocide brings the luggage. Firenocide brings the luggage. I repeat, his dog is there. So as Firenocide brings the luggage in the carriage, Mr. Hall comes out, and behind him stands the stranger. As both of them are looking at Mr. Firenocide, whose dog is also there, his dog jumps on Mr. Hall, and Mr. Hall ducks, he bends down. So the dog lands on the invisible man, and his trouser is ripped. Mr. Hall is really worried about him, that he is attacked by the dog and perhaps he should be taken care of. The man rushes to his room, and Mr. Hall runs behind. And in the meantime, we see that people get collected near Coach and Horses. Mrs. Hall starts argumenting with Mr. Firenocide that why his dog, was trying to bite her guest. Huckster is there, we come to know, and Sandy Badgers is there. And we will be given further information about Huckster and Sandy Badgers in the next chapter. We just learned that Sandy Badgers comes from the forge. Badgers is a blacksmith, and we would be reading in the coming chapters that he's also an exorcist. But I will be doing things as it is discussed in the chapters. So what do we learn? We finally learn that the stranger goes to his room, and Mr. Hall rushes behind. He's worried for him. He wants to know whether he's fine. And as he enters his room, since the door is open, he's able to find out that there was something wrong with man's appearance. Perhaps he was visible from somewhere, and certain things about him were not very clear. But he is definitely not able to understand that he is invisible, because how could he just straight away come to that conclusion? Now, in this chapter, you will find that the word dog, it has been spelled like D-A-R-G, dark, and this is done deliberately because they are all villagers and their language is such. So the moment everything gets fine, the stranger comes back. Mr. Hall is still in confusion that whether the man is, something wrong with him, with his looks and appearance, but nothing gets clear to him. The man changes and tells everyone that he's fine. The dog did attack him, but he's fine. So finally, he unpacks his luggage, and he throws the straw on the carpet. Little fat bottles are there, powder is there, all sort of powders. Some of the bottles are even labeled poison, and white glass bottles of different shapes, sizes, wine bottles, salad oil bottles, all sort of bottles have arrived. He starts working quickly with this because the laboratory material he wanted has come. While opening the boxes, he is quite sort of careless, and he throws the straw on the carpet. So when Mrs. Hall comes to his room, she's slightly annoyed as she says that you have spoilt my carpet. At that, the man says, you can put down a shilling in the bill. So after that, what happens is that Mrs. Hall hears some strange noises coming from his room, in which he's talking senselessly. He's raving that patience, patience indeed, and then as if he's talking to himself. And as Mrs. Hall again goes to his room with tea, she finds that broken glass is there. And again, she has this question that why he is behaving like that. But the man, being very lenient with money, again pays money for that. And Hall, even though she has so many questions, decides to be quiet. Now, the significant thing which happens at the end of this chapter is that Mr. Teddy Henfrey, the clock jobber, and Mr. Ferronaside, the person who brings the man's luggage from Bramblehurst station, they are sitting in the pub and in the evening, and Teddy again calls him, that a rum looking customer has come to Coach and Horses. They are discussing the man because these are the only people of the Iping village who have seen him. Now they are expressing their views, and Fironaside says that maybe the man is piebald. He says that this kind of thing is very common with horses. Horses have patches, so the man is having patches on his skin. These details were collected by Ferenacide when his dog attacked the man and his trouser was ripped. Ferenacide noticed that instead of pink flesh, some blackness was visible. So he very carefully noticed that, and now he's sharing that with Teddy Henfrey. And then he also thinks that the man, he's a half breed. The mixing of colors in his body has not taken place properly. So, friends, what is important over here is that these villagers, now they have become curious, suspicious to collect details relating to the man, and definitely they would not be leaving him alone. They would be becoming more keen and curious, so that finally they would be able to dis- they would be able to disturb him so much that he would be made to leave Ipin village in the later chapters. So that's all for this chapter. Bye bye.